August 2nd, 2025. In the herb garden, I have a determinate Repreco, I believe, tomato growing. I recently found out about the Chelsea chop method. Basically, cut part of the plant off to promote flowering at a later time, and in this case, it seems to have worked. About 2 months ago, when the yarrow was starting to flower, I cut down about half of the plant, down about 12 inches. Half the plant kept growing and is now finishing up flowering. Meanwhile, the Chelsea chop section is only starting to flower now. So this worked out quite well. And to be frank, this thing grows to about 3 feet tall. I think next year I'll selectively cut within the plant so it looks full for the whole season. The cilantro's gone to seed. It will soon be coriander. In the new garden bed, I've got 4 determinates and a hidden celery in the middle. Ooh, hello celery. It's been doing quite well, even though it's not getting as much sun as the rest of the plants. They're growing kind of wild at this point, but the bed's still done pretty well. Although the one in the far right corner here has had a few issues with blossom end rot. But so far, it's the only plant in the garden that's had that issue. Its location is probably contributing. It's kind of stuck in a corner here. But every other plant's doing well. And this one's got it too. Just get rid of it and move on. I could put some Epsom salts down, but that would be a waste of time and money. The first Amish paste in the in-ground garden is doing quite well despite not getting the best care. But at this point I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 tomatoes on it already, so I can't really complain. And one of them is starting to ripen. Boysenberry season's over, ended about 2 weeks ago. Still 1 or 2 hanging on. Although I ate most of them, I did keep enough to make a small batch of jam, so we'll see how that tastes. So they produced quite well, especially compared to last year where I harvested 2 berries. Black Beauty tomato. This one's about to start ripening. I've harvested 3 of these so far. My verdict on them: in terms of a sandwich tomato, I don't know that I'd recommend them. The skin is fairly thick. That said, it's a very meaty tomato, so it could make for a very good sauce. So I'll have to save enough to make at least a small batch of sauce, because I don't think I'd be growing this one again for fresh eating. If you could have tomatoes, you would probably agree, wouldn't you? But tomatoes don't eat dogs, I hope. Dogs also don't eat tomatoes. Brad's Crazy Cherry is doing quite well. I've already harvested a few handfuls, and it continues to produce pretty decent amounts. Flavor is pretty mild. I'd say on the sweeter side. There's a yellow tomato, so that makes sense. They do drop easily, so be aware of that. They're not the biggest ones, they're just your, typical cherry tomatoes. I'm not a huge tomato fan, although I am starting to become one. I can handle these tomatoes. Good in a salad, good on bruschetta. I would grow these again. Very productive. Finally, a gazania. Rabbits apparently really like gazanias. So this is the first one that's actually gazania'd.
Good grammar is essential, Robin.
Thank you, Ben.
You're welcome.
It's a pretty flower. This slightly shaded spot has been great for the celery and the Swiss chard. They've grown quite well despite the heat we've been getting. as long as they're watered regularly. Carrots are sprouting. Will there be carrots by the time the frosts hit? Always a question. But if nothing else, I can use the carrot tops. They make for a really good pesto. Well, a decent pesto. Mixed with basil, mint. It can be quite tasty, actually. The mostly converted over to Everbearing strawberries bed. Albion strawberries and Charlotte strawberries. I have not had any Charlotte strawberries yet. However, I've had a few Albion, which is just a normal basic strawberry. I was reading about the Albion strawberries online and came upon a study that was done on runners in regards to Albion strawberries specifically. And they basically cut the runners off at different intervals to determine if they had an impact on growth. And turns out that cutting off the runners up to a certain point has a significant impact on how much you're going to get harvest-wise. So I've linked the study down below. Take a look if you're interested. It's a quick read, but shows the importance of cutting off those runners. It also looked at June-bearing varieties, but did not find that the impact was as substantial there. So from an Everbearing and from an Everbearing perspective, gray zucchini doing well. Gray zucchinis are allegedly smaller. They remain more compact, bush-like. They're a bit thicker, but less long than your Black Beauty variety, for example. But the taste is still there. All this leafage from one little French fingerling potato. I think we're just about ready for harvest. Oh, look at that. Got a little green one popping up here. I think we're about ready for harvests. I've reduced the watering on these. There you go. Fingerling potato, not a tomato. This is from a potato that was saved from last year's harvest in August or late July. And it managed to survive the entire winter in my cupboard. So if I can keep growing these, keep a few every winter, then I might keep growing them. And over here with about as much growth, but a bit more scraggly, more of a can-it-be-done kind of project. I've harvested a few. Most of them are about golf ball size, baseball size, 3/4 of banana size. Taste-wise, they're fine. There's not particularly extraordinary flavor to them. So far, Yukon Gold seem to be winning in the flavor category for me. So, we'll see what the final harvest is. I don't think these store well. I'll have to look that up. Because if they don't store well, there's another reason not to grow them again next year. Obviously, the fingerlings store well. I was able to store one for almost 8 months. So we'll see. Some of the Lesyas are starting to ripen. They're not massive in size, but because of the potatoes next door, they got maybe a little less sun than they should have. I've got 3 Lesya Pepper plants in here. Hindsight, 2 would have probably been enough. Here's an interesting one though. This is a Lesya plant, or Lesya seed, from my own saved seeds. The look is almost making me think it might be like a cross between maybe a Lesya and a jalapeno. So I'm interested in finding out what the flavor on this one is. Might be a savor for seeds. Or just a weird looking Lesya. Mutations will occur. That's part of the fun part of gardening. Explants. All of the garlic has now been harvested in the last few days. Some Russian red, some Spanish something, and a couple of music garlics that I still had. So, German red, music, Spanish roja. They say your music is about your typical store size. This one's smaller, but who knows? Maybe the taste will be amazing. I'm also going to test which of these stores the longest, assuming the flavor's good. Planted some carrot seeds to replace the spots where the garlics were, and some bush beans over here, gold rush bush beans, to replace the garlic. This is a volunteer tomato. I did not plant it. Likely the gold nugget tomato, because I did grow that last year. A determinate large cherry, similar to sun gold, but it doesn't seem to split as much. And obviously size-wise, it's a bit bigger than sun gold. It's a decent size. Almost halfway between a cherry and a grape size. This is the back of a black Krim tomato. How cool is that? Look at that design. You get weird striations and stuff, but this is pretty neat. Homegrown plants are just so much more interesting than the store-bought crap you get. They may sometimes look funky, but the flavor on a ripe Paul Robeson.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
This should be a pretty good sized one. Paul Robeson. This will be my second harvested tomato. So not quite as productive as the Black Beauty, but he's got 3 more, 4 more, a little bit funky looking. Oh, I actually cut one of these down this morning actually, so let's see, not the most productive, but these were all home kept seeds, as long as the quality is good. Second generation Amish paste, kept seeds. Seems to be doing quite well. I haven't harvested anything yet, but this one is starting to blush. And this one's about to start look at the size of this thing. This is going to be over £1 for one tomato. Amish paste is a good all-around fresh eating or sauce tomato. I will say though it has more seeds than the Black Beauty. I'm really interested in finding out what the Black Beauty is flavor-wise with a sauce. Mind you, it doesn't produce as much as a single Roma tomato plant probably will in a season, but maybe it's a, combination situation. I don't need to stick to a single tomato type for sauce. And in what has become the fastest growing vine of the tomatoes, Téton de Vénus. In my search for good sauce tomatoes, I came across this one, Téton de Vénus. I wasn't sure how this would do at first because the plant was very scraggly. It looked like it was going to die pretty much every time I looked at it. Very floppy, no structure like most tomatoes, but it's doing well now. It is over 6 feet tall, and I've got about a dozen tomatoes on it. Hopefully the flavor's good. Here's a shot of what it looks like when it's ripe. Not mine. I continue to be unsuccessful in growing cucumbers for any length of time. They inevitably get killed by creatures of the garden. So I've already pulled a few plants. Maybe one day I'll find a variety that'll work for a long time. I was able to get a couple of market mores out of this plant. And it's not dead yet, so I'm hoping to get a bit more production. It might be ready for some more fertilizer though. Ground cherries doing pretty good. I'm harvesting them and putting them in the freezer once I've dehusked them. And I'm going to make some jam. I made some ground cherry jam last fall, and it was very interesting. I have to admit, ground cherry jam is not the flavor I would have expected, but the more I have, the more I like it. Not your typical jam flavor. Definitely a redo. But this time, we'll add some pectin. It was a little too soupy last time. Good? You know we're just doing that for the camera, right? Alright. The camera loves you, Pickle. Season of the raspberries is over. I've started cutting down the canes from last year. They're done, the brown ones. And I have to continuously cut down parts that come up 5, 6, 7 feet away, but good season. I haven't tallied all my totals yet. Pretty sure it's pretty good. Despite the black raspberry being extremely thorny, not blackberry thorny, but extremely thorny, it kind of remained in its own place. It doesn't seem to be running around and spreading out that much. The red raspberry, ace raspberry, however, does. Death will soon be coming to you, my friend. It's too bad that the prettiest bugs tend to be the worst ones in your garden. Blackberries are going wild. Blackberries are doing well enough this year that I can actually train them and trellis them. They should fruit next year, if they survive the winter. On a whim, I planted an old Ace 55 tomato seed plant to see if it would still sprout. It's about 5 years old. It did, and my goodness, it is absolutely loaded with tomatoes. This puts Roma tomatoes to shame. I'm going to have 50 plus tomatoes on this thing. I keep having to support it because look at this thing, it's so massive. I have strawberry mint now, thanks to you know who you are. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.